Hey everybody, welcome to Between Two Servers, the show where we talk about multiplayer game development and netcode. With us today is Samy Duc. He's worked on Assassin's Creed, The Crew, Ghost Recon, Gears of War, and Apex Legends. Welcome to the show, Samy.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
What are you playing right now, man?
I just finished Mad Max.
Cool.
So it's a pretty cool open world. It does very little things differently. Like the combat loop is very simple, the infiltration loop is very simple, but it really sold you this post-apocalyptic universe very well, and the dialogue are extremely well written. Yeah, very, very amazing to me.
That's awesome. The post-apocalyptic scenarios are just they just don't feel realistic to me anymore with our current situation.
Yeah, sure.
A little too close to home these days.
But there is just all these mechanics around the car, you can upgrade it, and the characters around it that really sells this universe very well. And it works in a small, like, contained open world.
That's cool.
Yeah, very impressed by what they did.
That's awesome. Hey, so let's talk about some more technical subjects. So one thing I really really stuck out looking at your career is you're actually really similar to me. So I spent a lot of my career working on multiplayer games doing peer-to-peer. And then I kind of saw the light, working at Respawn on the client server stuff. And I'm never doing a peer-to-peer game again. So
yeah.
What's your take?
I know, I love peer-to-peer.
Yeah? What's the story? Why do you like peer-to-peer?
Because it's hard. It's hard to get right.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also like scary hard, like NP complete hard. Like there might not be a solution for this, or I can't prove that it's working, but I think it works most of the time. So and that's scary.
So one of my fondest memory in game dev about that was to work on The Crew, because I think it was the best peer-to-peer tech I've seen to date.
Yeah.
And it's a bit sad because they don't advertise it much, and I don't even think Ubisoft knows they have the best peer-to-peer tech there. But
well, now they do. Now they're going to see it.
Now they do.
Ubisoft. You pay attention to Samy here.
But it's very, very, very interesting technical solution. I always regret a bit to went to the server side too soon. And so I never had to do my own tech on this strategy. But yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I got to go do peer-to-peer on God of War, and it just about broke me. So I've had my fill of peer-to-peer, and no more, thank you.
But I still think there is a lot of techniques like determinism and so on that we could take back to the server side to make it lighter.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the GGPO style stuff?
Not really, no. It's more about...
Not the rollback? Okay.
No rollback. I'm more speaking about when you have a lot of NPCs and AIs and so on, you can pre-compute a lot of stuff with a determinism. And
of course. So you would be kind of triggering them on something, and they would be evaluating a fully deterministic action, and then you would only have to synchronize the beginning of that action potentially. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And
that's really smart.
For me, it's very interesting to explore the solution. And yeah, we'll see what Respawn does, but okay, it's always in the back of my mind.
Apex Legends 5 peer-to-peer, you heard it here first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you like peer-to-peer. Do you enjoy host migrations and NAT traversal?
Yeah, actually, I saw pretty elegant solution to that, so I'm kind of
wow.
I'm
that stuff I'm glad not to have dealt with.
I'm kind of frustrated to never have to.
Are you a masochist, Samy?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but I like my job. I like engineering because it's hard. I want to do hard stuff. Like it's really what drives me. Like always pushing like what can be done and so on.
That's really cool.
So peer-to-peer is one of those aspects that it's hard.
Well, distributed programming is one of the hardest things on the planet. Yeah, distributed consensus and peer-to-peer, and then considering security and cheating issues and what can be distributed and what can't. I mean, I don't exaggerate when I think I've had a mental breakdown over debugging peer-to-peer, and my brain broke. It's that complex.
Yeah, it's true.
So let's talk about latency. So what are the sort of things that let's go back to the client server world. So what are some of the things that you do in Apex Legends sort of work with latency for players. You've got a lot of latency. There's people playing over distance. Some people play cross region. You have very, very good quality servers distributed around the world, but some people still get latency. So what do you do in game to help with that?
So yeah, we are not in the camp of saying you should play with the lowest latency, or you.
Okay.
We are looking at to allow the maximum number of people to play the game. So we are very high latency. Like you can play the game around 200 milliseconds. I would say.
So you've worked out the range where like it's playable, and you've done a lot of work to make it playable so that the most people can enjoy the game.
Yeah, that would be my main take. Like there is nothing more. You cannot compliment me more than saying like this guy from some island is able to enjoy the game, and it's one of the only multiplayer games he's able to enjoy. And that's one of the best compliment you can make me. Or maybe, for example, like Asia, like there is a lot of routing issue in Asia. And
the hairpins are crazy there, especially around Singapore. It's no fault of anybody. It's just the internet just doesn't necessarily always take the right route. So,
maybe a bit of politics, but
it's fair.
Yeah. And so when people, for example, from Australia can compete against people against Japan, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's
actually,
very
I've got to do a shout out for some buddies of mine. Go to onecode.com. So oneqode.com. They're doing this really cool thing where they're setting up server hosting inside Guam, which is central from Asia through to Australia. It's like halfway. Yeah. It's like the magic point for APAC cross-region play. So check them out. Free. This will be $5,000. Thank you very much, OneCode. Okay.
I think Valve does that now for CS:GO competition.
That's great. The regional competition for esports is a pretty big thing, and like it's kind of like about finding a central server where it's fair for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Like our main point is fairness. Like you should not be advantaged because you happen to live in a city with very low latency and you have access to fiber and so on. Of course, you should play the game fine and so on. Yep. But from a fairness point of view, who shot the best win.
Yep, makes perfect sense. So
to come back to your original question, we have local interpolation, so it's smooth and so on. And we have very large lag compensation buffers. Basically, that's mostly a memory budget at this point when you have good algorithm.
Yep. So lag comp is on the server when I'm shooting. It means if I shoot from my point of view, I get the kill, generally speaking.
Yeah. So the way I explain it usually is that it's like you play in the past, but you also have as much version of the game as there is players. Like everyone is seeing a version of the game that with lag compensation that is unique to them in a sense.
I like to call this the time stream of that player. Every player has their own local time stream, and it's unique to them, and including where everybody else is actually unique to them too, because they're seeing something a little bit behind where the server is really having that person. Yeah. Cool. So Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying and we are a competitive shooter, so we have to rewind animation and so on. And we take a lot of pride. I think it's one of the most, one of the big selling point of Apex to be able to play. Even your friend, I can play with my friend in France.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I remember at one point when I was working on a previous game, I screwed up the lag compensation, and the designers and Drew noticed in single player that I'd screwed up the lag comp. In single player with no lag, he felt it. So it's actually making such a big difference in the feeling of the game that these features that are hiding latency in multiplayer, the designers and some of the players are professionals on the dev team, and these are people who are so sensitive to something not feeling right when you shoot somebody that they notice that even in single player. And I was pretty much blown away at that point.
Oh yeah, it's great. Like they miss if a shot does not register, like
you're in big trouble. Yeah. I actually remember talking with I interviewed John before in the previous interview, and when I first started working with John, I was coming from the peer-to-peer world, And I'm like, wait, John, like, what do you mean you don't extrapolate? He's like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
because you want to be shooting at something real, right?
Yeah.
It's like John was telling me, is basically like, if you shoot and someone's crouched and you shoot at their kneecap, you hit their kneecap. The full animation state is actually synchronized and accurate, so that those shots are actually registered.
Yeah,
and that blew my mind.
It's actually how we like hit registration issue. So you think you hit someone and you have the feedback of hitting someone, but actually there is no damage made because the server didn't register so hit registration or no rage for the. And so when we debug no rage, so what I did is like when you hit someone, when you no rage, I will display the bones and the hitbox.
You want to see the bones and where they are, and then
the state. Yeah. And so then you can pause the engine and you can move the camera around and see the trajectory and so on. And when you go to the logs, you see like the animation markers, like, and they need to match and so on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty a grueling process because it's really frame by frame. Like
no, that's really amazing. And I just like, as a dev who's worked on, I've got no credit for Apex whatsoever, but working with the same crew, this whole team takes like literally like you're shooting and you miss the knee by like, it looks like you hit, but you missed by 10 centimeters, but you really should have hit. This is something where this team stops everything and debugs and works out what's going on.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, and we had at some point we let one of those pass in retail, and player.
Oh, they found out right away?
They found out right away.
I mean, the players know. The people act like the players don't. The players know and feel everything. When you have a game this large, they find it right away. They notice something's different, and they let you know.
And so what's great about working in a live game is that you will have a second chance. So it will get patched and you will keep iterating. So, but you have to put in place things for it to not happen again. So you put, what I put, like visual debug clue when it happens on screen. So when people play test, they can say,
I love if you can pause the game and scrub frames and have that visual debug up. That stuff is exciting debugging, relatively for debugging, which is totally boring. But visualizations that help you debug really weird issues that you won't be able to see from logs.
Yeah,
it's such a superpower.
I mean, our tech. I think our tech is very mature now, so it's pretty good. So they are mostly like little math errors that round up to usually, and so so the repro is most of the work. Like there's no big bug in the system per se.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so why don't we talk a little bit about matchmaking? So do you work on the matchmaker yourself?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's say I'm a really high skilled player in Apex. I'm like Drew, okay, and or pretty much anyone on the design team. I would get destroyed in daily playtests way back when I was there. I was absolutely terrible. So, but I'm a really high skill player. What's your goal for a high skill player when they're matching on Apex? What do you want to happen? How do you do it?
So we have multiple game modes, which what we call the pubs, so the public matchmaking, let's say. So it's what we call SBMM in the lingo.
So skill based.
Yeah. So I see matchmaking as an extension of game design in a sense. Like what are you trying to achieve with your game modes? What experience do you want to give to people?
Yeah.
So SBMM is something a bit more relaxed and trying to assess your skill, but on a short period of time mostly. Like it's something a bit volatile, so it's not going to stay. It's not going to say you are this level, and
you're not really trying to rank people. You're just trying to find them good matches.
Yeah, you're trying to produce fun.
Yeah, that's it.
And particularly for public matches, like you're trying to. And if they are having a bad day, they will go in matches that match the mood of the day, basically. Ranked is very different because the battle royale ranked is pretty. It's pretty tense. So what we try to do there is to pack because we need to find 60 people of the same level, which is quite impossible in most of the time.
It's literally impossible.
Yeah. So you try to pack as much people as you can. So you do a lot of math and analytics to say, okay, the optimal wait time now is
okay. So you're now working the constraints now, right? You're now, I don't want to wait forever to play because people are going to get pretty antsy after about 45 seconds, maybe a minute at the most. I mean, an average, I'm sure, is way lower than that, right?
But I mean, it depends. It depends of your skill bracket. The more skilled you are, the more you accept to wait.
Okay, so it's like a queue, like a League of Legends type queue when you're super skilled. It's like it's gonna take time to find somebody.
Yeah. So makes
sense.
We tune by skill usually.
Also, you have the ability to do different matchmaking tunings by skill bracket.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I didn't know that. Huh.
And so you do that, and then it's a lot of analytics, but you work with data scientists to figure out the pattern and so on. Okay. And you try also. So what I do usually, it's beginning of each season. I watch the season before because every season the rank resets. So it's like starting fresh. And I have basically a list of high profile name.
Are you starting fresh with skill as well, or rank, or help?
Yeah, ranked. Yeah, with skill. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I watch these people. I watch the pattern, what they did. Like, are these people trying to evade the hard match by going to low pop data centers?
Also boosting.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
Are they trying to game the system, basically?
Okay.
How long do they play, etc.? Because sometimes people change data centers depending on the hours and so on. So you try to fight that a bit because
So in your matchmaking, you let people select where they want to play.
Yes.
And that's so that they can have like a local crew at a certain time, or because it's actually quite a big decision. Many games just kind of go auto match and you don't have any choice.
Yeah, but it has a lot of implication. It's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we let people pick. Yeah, I don't.
Not having choice is very frustrating as a player.
Yes, and particularly when you play friend, and because we have this story of having very high latency possible, we are able to play with very high latency. So sometimes people knows better on which data center. Everyone in their group will have a better experience.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like often when you're writing a matchmaker and you take on the weight of deciding where everybody plays.
Yeah.
And if you take the control away from them, you are kind of taking the responsibility of every single decision that they may have made where they would have liked to be now responsible for. And it's almost impossible as an engineer to know what they were wanting. So it's impossible really to do that.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So let people select where they play.
And so there is a caveat to that. We don't like very high skill brackets. They get consolidated to specific data centers usually too, because the population is so low. I mean, it's a chicken egg problem. Like you want to make like the high skill, like a bit elitist, it's a very close club.
Okay.
Like you really have to be the best, but it means in a data center, in a BR, like because there's very few of them, you cannot.
So you sort of have like, I'm not fully understanding, so help me understand. Is it that the really high skill players are only playing with other really high skill players? Or is it that they're in like certain servers only are enabled for them?
They are merged with lower skill at some point, but we try to consolidate them all.
So you have a multi-pass algorithm where you're like, get me my badasses, and now we'll fill the team out and we'll distribute, and it's kind of like picking people to play soccer, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's like you line up and it's like you pick the really really fast guy.
It's actually
they pick the second fastest guy, and then I get picked last.
It's no, don't sell yourself short.
It's literally
it's a very similar algorithm. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. So So sorry, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
We also have another game mode now that is called Arenas. That is closer. That is 3v3.
That's a big difference from 60.
Yeah, and so it's basically a game mode where you can experience the gunplay all the time, like and the design constraint on this game.
Totally different matchmaking for that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. The design constraint was super interesting.
So not only do you have matchmaking that's different depending on skill level, and then you have special structures for really high skill players. You also have potentially different matchmaking algorithms or tuning for different game modes based on the design of how you want people to play those.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Well, probably not actually. You guys are pretty open with what you do. So, I like it.
So what's fantastic about that is that it's what I like about Respawn, and like it's completely well described there. Like we have a design goal and we are going to do whatever it takes to achieve it. Yeah. Like because most of the company would use an off-the-shelf matchmaking, and we'll have
I'll buy the True Skill matchmaker.
Exactly. And you will have your True Skill 2.0 whatever across all your matchmaking.
That's great if you're playing chess or if you're playing Go. Those algorithms like ELO and True Skill are really, really good. But skill is something that changes a little faster. Like you've had a beer,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Maybe Fridays you're not as skilled as the other evenings.
And so because we are custom matchmaking, I like to say we have three different matchmaking, basically. The public battle royale, the ranked battle royale, and the arena matchmaking.
You're almost treating them like you are treating them like distinct different games with different rules for matchmaking, with different intentions and different sort of experiences that you're trying to give for your players.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, completely. And I think it's one of the success of the game. It's like, it's tailored.
Matchmaking is a big deal. Like you've got, here's the thing, like you've got an engine all the way back to Quake, right? So it's based on Source Engine, which is originally from Quake. Yeah. And then Respawn has been working on that for like more than is it quite a decade? It probably is almost a decade now.
I think it's over.
Yeah. And so you've got an engine that, let's face it, like it works, right? Like your client-side prediction works, your latency compensation works. As you said, a few rounding errors here and there. But then where do you make it unique? Where do you make it apex? It's the design, right?
Yeah, I think it's a design.
And it's how people play. It's how you make people play with the matchmaker that serves that up.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I mean, the
secret weapon.
The thing that impressed me the most when I joined was the designers.
It's a great crew. Yeah,
clearly another class. Like, and they're technical too. Like they code the game.
Oh yeah. Still writing everything in Lua, right? Like,
kind of. Yeah, the screen earlier, but yeah.
Cool. I remember honestly, like a lot of the designers, and some of them really were just engineers who like to do design more. It's like it's really cool to have an extremely technical design team, and then you also have people who are just not technical but just absolutely amazingly creative.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a bunch of engineers as designers. There's a really big mix, but I did notice a very strong technical element in the design team. Yeah. And maybe that's another one of the secrets of success there.
I mean, they can prototype themselves. And so they know very fast, like the visions they had in their head, if it's the good way to go or not. And for me, it's really what makes the difference with this game studio. Like it's a result of a culture. The game itself is a result of a very specific culture.
Okay, so that's brilliant. So let's go back to matchmaking very briefly. We've looked at it from the really high skill level. Now let's look at it as like, I am just joining Apex Legends mid-season for the first time. I want to have a good time. Yeah. What do you do? How do you help me?
Well, you can play. So you will have to play the tutorial.
Okay. I still suck after the tutorial.
And so you still suck.
I'm terrible.
But when you start to play, you start in the noob bracket.
Okay, so you have a bracket for people to come in. Okay.
And you play a bit to get out.
So there's sort of protection, and you're trying to help me play with other people who also just coming in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something we are not very good at. So if you play with a friend that is out of the noob bracket, you will get also out of the noob bracket. And it's something I want to work on a bit because I think we can get better at this to onboard people.
One of the really challenging things about team-based games and parties is just, I mean, people want to play with their friends and they want to be on the same team.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a hard requirement. That actually makes it harder to find where they should play.
Yeah.
It makes it harder to balance teams, and it kind of makes it harder to just do matchmaking in general. So if you're a new player and you party up with your buddy and he's the pro level guy, are you going to get pulled to the pro server?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, the party is the thing that effectively this is overriding all the other matchmaking things. I must play with my friends.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have a lot of a work item to address this. I mostly know I'm going to solve the problem. It's just a question of execution now. But I think it's something we can really get better at.
Cool. So let me summarize to sort of help that I make sure that I understand, because I find this super interesting. And everyone's approach is really unique because it's as unique as their game.
Yeah, of course.
It's from the game. It makes the game. It's a feedback loop each season with making it better. Seeing like, and you know what, Samy, like you don't just like tune some parameters and pull a patch out.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean it's not a black box. We do it literally. We code.
Yeah, but you get the data and then you iterate, don't you?
Yeah,
that's the key. Because you're like, I think this will do X, and then you're going to go see what happened with your data scientist, and then you're going to go, it did X, but it also did Y. Yeah, why did it do Y? All right, now I've got my hotfix coming in now. I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's switch to a different topic. So cheating.
Yeah.
A lot of players are complaining about cheating in Apex. What's going on, and what are you guys doing to stop it?
So what's going on? Yeah, so very popular game. So attacked a lot of mostly pay to use cheats.
Okay. So literally marketplaces where people pay money to get hacks and exploits for your game.
Yeah. Also we use an anti-cheat that is an off-the-shelf solution also.
Okay.
So there is already exploit from other games that can be backport to our game. So that's also a problem. I mean, given the popularity of Apex, it's certainly the opposite that happens. Other games that suffer from like the research of it.
What should I take? What should I take from this? That an engine with 20 plus years of heritage with one of the best game teams in the world cares so much about the experience, and people are still cheating it? Because I know you guys are doing everything right. You're doing everything on the server. The server is authoritative. The client isn't trusted. The network model is correct, and people are still finding ways to cheat.
Yeah,
can it even be won?
Can it be even? I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, cool.
I cannot be too specific, but yeah, we have.
This is one of those we're on it sort of situations.
I mean, you say like the network model is correct and so on, but we always introduce mistakes that that people tend to exploit very fast, so we fix them pretty fast.
I mean, compared to like a classic thing would be like when I'm shooting someone, I'm not really shooting them on my computer. You're making it with massive amounts of engineering effort. You're making it look and feel like that, but in such a way that you can fake shoot someone on your local machine all day. It's not actually going to count.
Yeah,
right. It's what the server does. So, I mean, that's like, it's literally the best of breed networking. Like for this genre of game, this is it. This is world-class stuff. So I guess you're dealing with, is it paid cheats for like wall hacks and aimbots, or what sort of cheats are out there?
It's mostly aimbots. It's mostly aimbots. Yeah, wall hacks is not that. It's important, but they mostly use it to find their prey. But no, it's mostly aimbot. It's kind of interesting because the time to kill in Apex is pretty high, so it takes a long time to kill someone.
It's not Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is like instant almost.
Yes.
So when you say time to kill is high, it means it takes a longer period of time.
Yes.
You're not like one shot.
No, yeah.
Okay, got it.
More than one clip.
Okay. That gives you folks some options there.
Yeah. So there is a lot of analytics to be done, a lot of technical solution explored. It's a hard topic also. It's a very hard topic, and the investment is very long. And all the resources that we use to work on that, we don't work on the game also.
So yeah, that's sort of a tragic thing, is like all the time that you spend on this, you'd rather be spending on, you know, new legends, new abilities, cool stuff, new gameplay elements.
Yeah, something I'm very passionate about currently is like make the game use less bandwidth. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's always with the idea of latency, it goes pair with latency. Like some people don't have very good internet and good bandwidth. There's a lot of congestion. So
that's really worthy, because if you start pushing too much down that pipe, especially in the up direction, but also in the down, you can really buffer bloat somebody, especially outside of the you know, major cities.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of work on that before, on a previous game. I did it from the first title that you guys came out with. On the second one, I did a bunch of bandwidth optimization from 1 to 2, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of. I did a lot of optimizations on load time, because everybody was complaining about the load time, and I was like, I'm developing this game, and I'm sad about that. And I didn't have an SSD, so of course my load time was terrible. Yeah. Right. So I debugged and worked out like, do you really need to do this here? And it turned out that I could get it from like 10 seconds down to 2. So I was like, yeah, good job, Glenn. All right. And then I went off and did some real work. But like the bandwidth optimizations too, it's like, you know that when you do these, you're making someone who couldn't play the game before be able to play it and enjoy it now.
Yeah.
And it's really addictive, actually.
Yeah, I know.
I love optimization. How about CPU and memory optimizations? Are you guys like wanting to pack more stuff in as well? That's the other thing that's addicting, is like, if I can make this more efficient, the designers can have 10 times as many of these. And that would be super cool, because they could do more stuff.
Yeah, on the server, mostly on the server, because like...
Okay, because that's where all the game runs, because it's a server game.
It's where I work on, so...
yeah, so you're primarily working on the server side of the game.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's worked on a peer-to-peer game or stuff like that, like when you're on the client, the only real simulated entity is kind of yourself and your weapon. Yeah. And everything else is an interpolation of what's coming from the server and snapshots. So the at least as I remember, I may be talking out of my ass, but this was true when I was there. But the server is so CPU bound, because it's doing all of the gameplay and all of the work and all the resolution of shots and health and everything. And the client now just can basically do everything on rendering. That was sort of the vision. Have the client do rendering. Spend the CPU on the rendering.
Yeah.
So
be a
cool.
Terminal.
Cool. Yeah, not quite a dumb terminal, but close. Okay. So which brings me to the sort of the final section here. Let's talk about some funny bugs you've experienced. And I want to volunteer my own funny bug. Sometime on a previous game, I was debugging Raimi's code, and during my load time optimizations, I think we had a rare bug that only showed up like once in QA, and then I put an alert in there so that QA would catch it. I made it a full message box. Fucking 3 years later, on Apex Legends, there's a Reddit thread about please show Glenn. And that was my embarrassing funny bug. What sort of funny bugs have you seen?
I just want to bounce on this before, because
I called up John right away and I'm like, I am so sorry, John.
Apex Legends is potentially a game that is going to live forever, as much as there is players. And it completely changed the way you think about engineering, you know? But because, for example, if you speak about what we call persistence, like the save game of a player, it's potentially something that is going to grow forever.
Yeah.
And so it brings scalability issues. And so there is bug edge case that you may thought will never happen, but start happening just because of the lifetime of the game. So it's also a big endeavor, a lot of time that we spend on scaling up all the systems that were planified for games that have a lifetime of 2 years, for example, you know? And it's something that people should not underestimate, like the amount of redesigning scalable systems compared to the we ship a game in a box model.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a live, living game.
Yeah.
Cool. So what sort of bugs have you seen in your career? You told me the other day about the Silver Surfer bug. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I love this one. So one of the hardest thing I did in my career was the kill cam on Gears 5. And so we talk a bit about it. Like it's replay system are the toughest things to do.
Yeah.
Because basically you need to show exactly what happened before, and it's not really how it works.
It's not really what happened, it's what you think happened.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
your point of view.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's Gears 5 is obviously Unreal Engine. So on Unreal Engine, you do it a bit particularly. You record. It's basically playing on Gears 5. It's basically replaying a demo file on top of the live gameplay. So when the thing is over, you can go back as fast as possible to the gameplay. It's a bit different. So you duplicate some.
So you have a parallel demo being rendered while the live game is kind of running underneath.
Yes.
Still there, but it's not really that the demo is injecting into the live game.
Yes. And so to make it load fast, you reuse assets that are already loaded from the live game. And so the kill cam will borrow those. For example, the skins in Gears, like the characters are Silver Surfer. Like they are kind of mannequin, silver mannequin.
Okay, because you got the wrong reference to their skin.
Yeah, exactly. So you copy all this reference and so on and so.
So it ended up being it ended up being like an Easter egg or something cool that would happen every now and then, or.
No, it was live actually. terrible bug. But
please show Samy the Silver Surfer bug.
Cool. But for me, it's pretty funny because like it shows a bit how it's done to people. Like your nitty gritty character, like in Gears of War, like it's very beastie, you know, it's very bloody and
hyper masculine.
And so in the middle of that, you have a guy that is all shiny and bouncing between rows. Yeah.
So I've got another bug that isn't as embarrassing as Please Show Glenn. I worked on Tribe's Vengeance. Back at way back in like 2005 or something like that, and that was back at Irrational Games, which was a super cool and very different studio to all the other ones I worked on, including Respawn. This is a game where you can jetpack and kind of ski around the level, and it's a classic bug that I've seen on multiple titles because every time you work on a turret in a game, at some point that turret's going to get up and walk around and start shooting at you. Because you always implement the turret as it's a pawn, it's a soldier, but you can't move, right?
Yeah.
And then somehow some event happens that triggers it to go into a state where it's now allowed to move. So in Tribes, it actually ran the turret on a ship actually started jetpacking and skiing down a hill.
Yeah, we had the same bug on Apex. Like you have a character that his ultimate is about putting down a big minigun. Yep. And some people put it on another character as a mini drone that fly and so on. And so people found out that they can put the minigun on the drone. So now you have a flying minigun with someone on it shooting at you.
Okay. That's cool. I can one up you. I've got one better. This is a really old school classic one from Ralph Koster from Ultima Online. They implemented, you used to have a knapsack. You could store all your gear in it. Mm-hmm. And there was a bug where you would put your horse in the knapsack because I think you were getting on the horse. You know, like the classic thing that you do. You get on a horse. You're not really getting on a horse. You're wearing horse pants. Yeah. Or like game development is smoke and mirrors. It's you're not really getting into a Titan, right? Like your mesh is swapped, and suddenly now your player mesh is instantly in a single frame of Titan, but it feels and looks like you did that, right? And in this case, in Ultima Online, I'm pretty sure you were riding a horse, but they hacked it up in such a way that you put on horse pants. It wasn't really the horse, and then they put the horse in your inventory, and then this went on for like a while, and then they found that it was randomly crashing because what was happening was that the horse was inside your inventory, which was implemented as another level, and it was eating your items.
Amazing.
So that's emergence right there. Hey, on that note, Samy, thanks heaps for spending time with us today, and keep up the good work on Apex, mate. See you later.
Pleasure.
Cheers, everybody.
Here's the hard truth. The internet doesn't care about your game. After all the blood, sweat and tears you put into making your game, you launch, and some players get terrible network performance. What can you do about it? Build your own internet? This is why we created Network Next. Network Next is a radically new way of linking networks together. It's a new internet. One where networks compete on a neutral marketplace to carry your game's traffic. Network Next puts you, the game developer, in control of the network. We monitor every player's network performance and you choose when to accelerate them. Not only will you see better network performance for your players, you'll also have the security of knowing that if one network is congested, we switch to another in seconds. Now you control the network.